Hi everyone, this is Neil. I know you're probably going to be feeling really disappointed that you haven't yet demonstrated the ILOs for the essay. Obviously, I'm going to work with you now between now and when you need to resubmit, so you're going to get plenty of support. Jerry's going to be available to give you support as well. We really want to get you through. We don't want to prevent anybody from getting through. Okay, so that's you need to know that the intention from this point on is really, really positive. Okay, I'm just starting now, but I just want to show you very simply and straightforwardly what it is that you need to write when you rewrite your assignment. I know we've discussed some of this before, but I think it sometimes feels different when you've had a first go at actually doing it, because otherwise it's all just a bit abstract before you do it. But now that you've had a go and you've seen what didn't quite work, hopefully this is going to feel more concrete. I'm going to try and make it really direct and straightforward for you. So the three learning outcomes that we need to see in your assignment are to critically evaluate a range of pedagogic models, so things to do with teaching and learning in the classroom and how you've actually used them and applied them, critically evaluate models and practices related to feedback and assessment, and critically analyse how you're going to try to create a really positive learning environment. And the words that are really critical here are these: critically evaluate, critically evaluate, critically analyse. The reason why people haven't yet got through this part of the assignment is because you haven't done the critical evaluation part. You've described what you did. You've all described actually really very good bits of teaching that you've done, and that's great, and I'm delighted about that. But what you haven't done is critically evaluated the theories and models that you've used and that you clearly have used that have underpinned your teaching, right? So the essay is this thing about critical evaluation of the models in relationship to your own practice. The module is called Linking Theory and Practice. So what we're trying to do all the way through this is see the ways in which you're able to go between: here's a theory I've learned, here's what I'm doing in the classroom, here's a theory, here's what I'm doing in the classroom. And it's all about showing what you've been thinking. So it's not just about showing what you've been doing. You've all done that very successfully, actually. You've shown me exactly what you've done in your teaching. And as I say, it's been great. I'm thinking, yeah, fantastic teaching going on. What you haven't done yet is show me what the thought process was that's sort of underneath the surface of that teaching, and that is the reason why that teaching is working. So if you want to think about restructuring your assignments to meet the ILOs, the critical evaluation ILOs that haven't been met yet, this is what I suggest you think about restructuring your essay. So you can keep exactly the same teaching situations that you've written about. You can keep exactly the same theories that you've written about. There's nothing wrong with any of that. It's just about how you're putting them together and how you're presenting them on the page, okay? So the first thing that you want to write about is the planning phase. Why did you decide to do what you decided to do? You need to say here very explicitly, what theory or theories did you find that you thought would be useful for you? Obviously, this is a place to bring in your reading, because you need to show us exactly where these theories have come from. Sometimes you didn't show where the theories had come from, by the way. So you need to show us where they've come from. We're looking either for direct quotes or paraphrases here. Don't forget, Sussex assignment, we're looking for 20 to 30 better, references from as many different sources as possible. This is the ideal place to get them in, because you're showing us that you know where these theories have come from. Okay, so which theories did you find that you thought would be useful to you? And then just explain why. What was it about them? What resonated? What made you think, oh yeah, actually that's going to be really helpful? As I say, show your reading. And then a little bit of discussion. You haven't got lots of words, but a little bit of discussion about how you thought you could use or adapt the ideas to make them work in your own teaching context. The ideas we read are always quite general, so we always need to think about, okay, how am I going to use that idea in a way that's going to work for my students and the topic that I teach? And this is to do with a little bit of context that we need to understand as a reader. Generally, I like to know, how many students have you got? What topic are you teaching? What point of the year was it in? And what level and age are the students? So that we just have a real sense of the context within which you're teaching. It helps us understand, oh, I can see why you made that decision, because that would be very sensible because you've got 100 students. Or, oh, I can see why you made that decision. You've only got 6 students and it's a very practical class. You're going to make different kinds of decisions, yeah? So we need to understand the context. So that's what you would write in the planning phase. You'll notice, by the way, this is basically a Kolb cycle. We're starting with plan, we're going to do, we're then going to do reflect, and then we're going to do explain. So it's basically a Kolb cycle starting with planning. The second thing then is the do, putting things into practice. Describe very briefly what you did. Where some of you went wrong is you at this point you said too much about what you'd done, and so therefore there was lots and lots of description, but there wasn't very much on the thinking and evaluation side, which is what we need to see on paper. Okay, so you need to just say what you did very briefly, very concisely, and then get more into the kind of the thought process and the evaluation behind it, which would be to say, okay, having put it into practice, what happened? What worked well, what didn't work well, and what's my evidence for this? That's what you need to focus on rather than describing lots and lots on the first part, what happened. You need more of a focus on questions 2 and 3, what worked, what didn't work, and what's your evidence for this. Okay, so that's the doing and reflecting. What worked, what didn't work is the reflecting. Then we're getting into explanation. So it's like, okay, why do you think this happened? Something worked well, something didn't work well, but why do you think this happened? And this is where we need you to come up with your best hypothesis, your best reason for why you think something happened, and your best alternative hypothesis. Well, if my first idea is wrong, because often things are very complicated and we don't necessarily just know directly, here's my best alternative idea. And you need to back both of these hypotheses up, otherwise it's just pub talk, right? So you need to have reasons to show that the hypothesis you're coming up with is a reasonable hypothesis. We don't know whether it's correct or not, but we do know whether it looks like it's reasonable or not. And you need to back both hypotheses up by something from your experience. What was it that you saw or experienced, or have you had similar experiences elsewhere that would suggest to you that this hypothesis is correct? And what have you read that would suggest to you this hypothesis is correct? We're linking theory and practice, okay? And then we end with a double evaluation. So the first part of the evaluation focuses on evaluating yourself, and you say, okay, having tried to put this theory into practice, not being overly self-critical or not being, too soft on myself, how well did I do? Did I do a good job of trying to put this theory into practice? Did I mess it up? Did I miss something that's really important that on reflection I think, oh, I should have really done that? And if it didn't work, it didn't work. That's absolutely fine. We're looking for your thinking, and we're looking for if it didn't work or even if it did work. So what have I learned through this process, and what might I do differently next time? So that's the evaluation, critical evaluation of yourself. And then the second part of the critical evaluation, which is the bit that's asked for in the essay title, right? The essay title asks you to critically evaluate the theories, and this is what was missing. I mean, other parts were missing as well, but this is the most important part that was missing from people's assignments that you need to have a second go at. This is where you evaluate the theory or theories that you used in your practice, right? And you answer questions like, so in the light of my experience, what do I now think of the theories and ideas I've been trying to implement? What do I see as their strengths and weaknesses? What's really great about this theory? What is maybe doesn't work quite so well? And I've got an alternative idea that I think is better. And given what I know about my own teaching context, and given that all these theories, as I said before, are very general, how do I think I can maybe adapt and improve the theory to make it more relevant and useful to me? Which bits of the theory am I going to take? Which bits of the theory am I going to put down? Which bits of the theory am I going to change a bit to make them work well for me? If you write that kind of critical arc, it's kind of like a narrative of what you did, but it's not just about what you did. It's all about your underlying thinking and your evaluation and your ability to be critical about what you've done and how you've been thinking. That is going to get you through really successfully. So what we're going to be working on over the next couple of months is taking the assignments that you've written, where you've described what you did, and adding in all the elements that we've put in these slides that are going to move it from a description of this is what I did to a real evaluation of this is why I did it, this is what I was thinking, this is what I've learned from it, and this is what I think now are the strengths, weaknesses, and ways of adapting the theory that I used that helped me teach in the way in which I taught.